Bonjour et bienvenue à notre rendez-vous de presse quotidien en ligne et merci de nous suivre également en direct sur Europe by Satellite. Nous sommes le jeudi 17 juin. Je n'ai pas d'annonce particulière pour vous aujourd'hui, sauf de vous rappeler que l'Eurogroupe s'est réuni à Luxembourg. Le vice-président exécutif Valdis Dombrovskis et le commissaire Paolo Gentiloni y participent pour le compte de la Commission. La Commission et la Banque centrale européenne informeront des principales conclusions de rapports des surveillances post-programme pour l'Irlande, l'Espagne, Chypre et le Portugal. L'Eurogroupe discutera également du 10e rapport des surveillances renforcées sur la Grèce et du fonctionnement du mécanisme du taux d'échange. Lors de la réunion de l'Eurogroupe en figuration ouverte, donc à 27, les ministres prépareront les sommets de la zone euro qui aura lieu le 25 juin, donc la semaine prochaine, et ils feront le point sur l'état d'avancement en vue d'achever l'Union européenne bancaire. Le commissaire Gentiloni représentera la Commission à la conférence de presse qui aura lieu à la fin de la réunion ce soir. Donc, merci de garder vos questions au sujet couvert par l'Eurogroupe pour cette conférence de presse. Then, as discussed yesterday, I would like to inform you that we advanced our technical briefings on national recovery and resilience plans, which take place this afternoon and tomorrow morning. The briefing on Denmark's plan will now take place at 1 o'clock, so directly after this midday briefing. The one on Luxembourg's plan will take place tomorrow morning. We are working on the exact timing and we are going to let you know in the course of the afternoon. Both briefings, technical briefings, will be under embargo until the date of adoption of our positions. And with this, I'm ready to go to your questions. So please indicate by raising your hands if you have questions for us today. I see indeed that Jacobo has a question. Jacobo, go ahead.
Yes, hello. I would like to know if you confirm, si vous pouvez confirmer l'information du journal espagnol El País qui dit que la Commission européenne a déjà préparé ou est en train de préparer des projets de lignes directrices pour appliquer les règlements de conditionnalité liés à l'état des droits en vertu duquel un État membre peut perdre de fonds européens s'il ne dispose pas des moyens judiciaires et administratifs indépendants pour empêcher la fraude de se produire avec ces fonds. Et je voudrais savoir aussi quelle est la garantie d'efficacité de cette méthode, quelle est la différence avec l'article 7 qui lie déjà les fonds.
Je crains que nous avons...
Corrigez-moi. Oui, vous
Jacobo,
êtes là?
on t'a perdu brièvement, donc si tu peux répéter ta deuxième question.
Oui, la deuxième question, c'est quelle est la différence avec l'article 7? Parce que l'article 7, déjà, il lie les fonds à l'état des droits, mais on peut former des minorités de blocage au sein des conseils. Donc, à la fin, on se trouve nulle part parce qu'ils forment ces minorités de blocage. Et j'ai l'impression qu'avec ce règlement, c'est la même situation. C'est peut-être pas le cas, c'est pour ça que je pose la question. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Jacobo. Balázs m'a rejoint sur le podium pour te donner la réponse.
Effectivement, bonjour. Donc, la question de base, c'était les lignes directrices dans le contexte du règlement sur l'état de droit. Donc, on a expliqué à plusieurs occasions sur le podium depuis le début de l'année que le règlement est entré en vigueur le 1er janvier cette année. Et depuis lors, on travaille dur sur les lignes directrices qui vont préciser la manière de laquelle la Commission européenne a l'intention d'appliquer ce règlement. Et de l'autre côté, on travaille aussi pour identifier des cas potentiels qui peuvent être considérés dans le contexte de ce règlement. Et donc, je peux vous confirmer que cette semaine, la Commission a partagé les lignes directrices, les projets de lignes directrices avec les États membres et le Parlement européen. Donc, avec ça, on a commencé un processus de consultation qui va durer quelques semaines afin de pouvoir arriver à la version finale des lignes directrices. Deuxième question que vous posez concerne la différence entre le processus, la procédure article 7 et ce nouveau règlement. Donc la réponse à cette question est à mon avis extrêmement simple. Donc le règlement qui est entré en vigueur le 1er janvier concerne quasiment le budget et les intérêts financiers de l'Union européenne. Donc ça veut dire qu'on peut utiliser ce règlement au cas où il y a un vrai risque qu'une violation d'état de droit affecte de manière sérieuse le budget de l'Union européenne ou les intérêts financiers de l'Union.
Thank you, Balázs. Merci, Balázs. Je pense que Jacobo a une question de suivi. Jacobo, vas-y.
Oui, je voudrais savoir s'il y a aussi la possibilité, même si ça ne touche que les aides de la partie économique, s'il y a une possibilité de bloquer tout ça au Conseil de l'Union européenne. Merci.
Donc la majorité qui est nécessaire en fait pour l'adoption, c'est ça, je comprends la question.
Oui, donc voilà la procédure pour activer le mécanisme est expliqué dans le règlement, donc je n'ai pas forcément le règlement devant moi, donc peut-être ça vaut la peine de regarder cette question de manière bilatérale l'après-midi et on va clarifier exactement la méthode qu'on va devoir suivre pour activer le mécanisme au cas où ce soit nécessaire.
Merci beaucoup. Avez-vous d'autres questions pour Balázs au sujet du mécanisme des conditionnalités? Je vois que Roland a la main levée. Roland est à ce sujet.
Yeah, this is Roland from the Belgian daily The Standard. I had a question with regards to the Hungarian law that prohibits the display and promotion of homosexuality. The Commission stated that it will see whether it has any, whether it can identify any breaches relevant to EU legislation. Commissioner Dalli has already pointed to the possibility of using a similar mechanism as was used with certain Polish towns under the twinning agreement, namely cutting their funds. Has the Commission made any progress on this yet since yesterday? And yeah, can you elaborate a bit on the possible scope of the Commission's reactions to the law, if any?
Indeed, not a question for Balázs, but since there were no other hands up to ask questions for Balázs on the previous matter, I invite duly Christian to provide the answer to this question. You may have also seen that the President tweeted yesterday her position and her concerns about that law. But Christian, go ahead.
Yes, sure. If I may just add, Balázs will for sure clarify in more detail, but there is of course a difference between Article 7 majority, where you need higher majority and even anonymity for some steps, and the conditionality mechanism, which is usually via qualified majority. As for your question on the Hungarian law, well, you saw the tweet by the President. She was very clear and expressed her concerns about the new law. We believe in a Europe which embraces diversity, not one which hides it from our children. This is why, as we said yesterday, also here, we will look into the law and assess if it breaches EU law. Freedom of expression needs to be protected, and no one should be discriminated on the basis of sexual orientation. So I think this is where we stand, which was also clarified by the President very clearly yesterday, and also Commissioner Dalli. You might have seen that she tweeted as well about this and made clear that she has requested the services to assess the law, which was then later announced by the President in the tweet. So that's where we're standing now. We're now looking into this law.
Thank you, Balázs. Please raise your hand if you have additional questions on this subject. Sorry, Christian. So please raise your hand if you have additional questions for Christian on this matter. This doesn't seem to be the case. So do you have questions for Christian on other matters that he covers since he's on stage? and that could be, you know, the whole panoply of justice issues. So questions for Christian? No questions for Christian. Thank you so much. Now we open the floor for other questions, and please raise your hand if you want to enter into other matters. So I see that David Price has his hand up. There are two Davids in a row. David Price. You need to press speak because we cannot hear you. We don't have your sound.
Okay, let me just...
That's good. Now we can hear you.
Good. Okay, I've just gone to floor from English. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, over the last couple of years, it's not just the rule of law and the other freedoms like freedom of assembly and speech and has been under assault and an attack, and the budgetary system of the EU has been changing radically. That's why I wrote in the beginning of April a registered letter to President von der Leyen to ask that the original principles of democracy that was signed by the founding fathers be published. It's never been published on the Commission website, as far as I know. I'm still waiting for a reply to that letter. In the meanwhile, representatives of the Commission, the Council and the Parliament agreed that for the future of Europe debate, it was essential that these documents should be published. And I'm still waiting to see what reactions from the institutions. So could you give me an update about what's happening about these documents? The founding documents are specifically the Great Charter of the Community, which was signed by the founding fathers in 1951, which or could be called the Declaration of Interdependence, which gives the principles of how the states and people should work together, and also the full text of the Schuman Declaration, which has not been published, and only the Schuman proposal has been published. What is happening on these important matters?
For your question, David, and for sharing your views about this. First of all, on the answer to your letter, allow me to check and to inform you bilaterally where the answer is in the pipeline. With regards to the principal matter that you raise, which is that of sharing in a broad way with Europeans the original founding documents of the European Union, I can only agree with you that this could be inspiring and that the roots that we have can be important vehicles to bring us towards the future. And we are living through important times in that respect right now with the launch of the Conference on the Future of Europe, where we want to involve as many Europeans as possible in a dialogue about where we want to go together, and knowing where you come from and what inspired the founding fathers to create the European Union can be also a good guide to where we want to go in the future. So indeed, those principles and those words can be equally powerful and inspiring. Now, regarding any practical answer or let's say practical action on the publication, we would be more than happy to convene with the other institutions and to see what would be the best way to do that. Thank you very much. Any additional questions on this matter? I think, David, you have a follow-up question. Go ahead.
In the past, letters were replied to within a few weeks, a month or so, and I specifically sent this by registered mail and by email and copies to everybody, I think including yourself in the spokesman's group and some other parts of the Commission, so I would get an answer rapidly. So has the the rule that letters should be replied to within a certain limited time been changed? And also, I've raised this question several times now, and I'm still getting the reply that things are in the pipeline.
Thank you, David. You're absolutely right. We have a time frame in which we strive to answer all the letters that we receive, be it from citizens or from journalists or from other stakeholders. That continues being the rule. Again, I'm aware of your letter because you kindly copied it to me and to other colleagues. But I will need to see whether where the answer is at the stage of basically departing, and whether perhaps the fact that this would involve other institutions and additional discussions were necessary can explain that. But again, I will be more than happy to give you a call, hopefully this afternoon, to clarify that time perspective. I believe there are additional questions on this matter because I have 3 hands up. So, no, the hands are going down. I only see 1 hand up, which makes me understand that Dave has a question about the same matter. So, Dave, is that the case? You have no mic source, Dave, so then, yes, now it seems to be working, so please go ahead. Unfortunately, it's not the right source, so I will give you a bit of time to sort out the mic sources, and I will give the floor to David Carreta.
Oui, merci Dana. David Carreta, Radio Radicale. J'aurais une question à propos du prochain Conseil européen et de la Turquie. Au mois de mars, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement avaient invité la Commission à présenter une proposition au Conseil pour continuer à financer les réfugiés syriens en Turquie, comme en Jordanie, Liban et autres parts de la région. Ça, c'est le texte des conclusions, du statement. Je voulais savoir quand est-ce que vous allez présenter cette proposition, si avant le Conseil européen, si juste avant, si vous pensez qu'il doit être négocié par les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, ou si c'est quelque chose de plus dans la longue période. Merci.
Pour ta question, David, effectivement, on a eu cette discussion au Conseil européen et la Commission y travaille maintenant pour remplir le mandat du Conseil européen. Je n'ai pas de date à t'annoncer sur quand on sera en mesure de faire notre proposition, mais nous y travaillons et nous espérons que bientôt nous allons y aboutir. Mais je n'ai pas de précisions sur les timings à partager avec toi aujourd'hui. David, tu as une question de relance.
Oui, juste pour savoir si c'est avant ou après le Conseil européen.
Il ne me l'est pas possible de te le dire. Les travaux sont en cours, la Commission y travaille, mais il ne m'est pas possible de te dire aujourd'hui si nous allons faire une proposition chronologiquement, disons, avant le Conseil européen. Mais dès que nous allons pouvoir le savoir, je partagerai cette information. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions à ce sujet, au sujet de la Turquie? Ce n'est pas le cas. Are there any other questions on other matters? Yes, Catherine has a question. Catherine, go ahead.
Hello, Dana. It's a question. I think it's for Stefan. Yesterday, CureVac reported 47% efficacy levels for its vaccine, showing that it's really certainly not as effective as the other vaccines that have already been approved. However, they've also reserved a lot of production capacity, and as we know, one of the problems at the moment is making use of scarce supplies and production facilities. So I'm just wondering, can the European Commission get involved I mean, what can it do? Obviously, CureVac is a private company, but it is backed by the European funding and support for vaccines. Is there anything it can do to maybe move to recognise that there are other vaccines that are effective and that maybe the capacity that has been reserved could be better used by other vaccine producers? Thank you.
It is indeed a question for Stefan. So, Stefan, are you connected? Are you there? Yeah.
I'm with you. I hope you hear me. Thank you very much, Catherine. Well, it's true that there is media reporting about the 47% efficacy. On this particular issue, I don't think it's up to us to comment at this stage. As you know, the efficacy and the safety of the vaccines are being analyzed, assessed by our colleagues from the European Medicines Agency. And obviously, as we follow a science-based approach, we rely on the work and the assessment that will be done by our colleagues of the European Medicines Agency. I don't think I can say anything more with regard to possible contractual issues here. We have a contract with a company which reserves a certain number of doses. But obviously, before such doses can be produced or delivered, we first need a market authorization following the green light of the European Medicines Agency. We are following the situation together with the member states in the steering board. And this is the only thing I think I can share at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, I would only add that the news that we have ourselves seen since yesterday and the information that is available about the efficacy rates seems to point to some preliminary or not complete and final results. So, of course, it would be important for us to have the final set of complete results regarding efficacy before taking any steps or proceeding in our discussions with the company. I think that Catherine has a follow-up. Go ahead, Catherine.
So just to be clear, let's say that there's further information emerging on the efficacy of the vaccine. I mean, would the steering board be the body that would make a decision, and can it make a decision that that capacity that is desperately needed to leverage up and create more production could be allocated elsewhere or should be allocated elsewhere? Can the steering board somehow make that decision, given that CureVac's a private company?
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you very much. First, I think it's very difficult to speculate. As Dana said, we have to wait for the further information and the assessment by the colleagues of the European Medicines Agency. The steering board, what's the steering board doing? They are monitoring the negotiations of contracts, but also the implementation of contracts together with the Commission to make sure that the needs of the member states are well tackled. This being said, when you refer to production capacity, from the beginning we have always invested in a broad portfolio of vaccines, using or negotiating contracts with different companies, using different technologies and different approaches. This is exactly to be better prepared when potential problems may arise with vaccines in the context of their development or in the context of the delivery. So this diversified portfolio helps us to cover the needs. And I would like to add to this that, as the President has already indicated a couple of times, on the basis of the current provisions that we have from the companies who are delivering the vaccines now, we believe that we should be in a position to have a sufficient number of doses delivered by next month, by the end of next month, to allow member states to reach the 70% vaccination of adult population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. As a very brief complement, I can add that indeed, we have experienced in the past cooperation between the companies with which we have concluded advanced purchase agreements, because some were later than others on their process of researching or developing a vaccine. So you are aware of the examples of the past with Sanofi showing openness towards helping at various stages of production the other companies in our vaccine portfolio. So such cooperation is always good. It's to everybody's benefit. So of course we support it in general. I would also like to emphasize that you are absolutely right, Catherine. Production capacity is a major issue, but the issue is broader than simply making available production lines, if I may say so. There is also the matter of raw materials which would be necessary for the production of an additional vaccine, also having the specialized staff that would be able to take part in that production. So indeed, looking at whether additional production lines or manufacturing capacity, physical manufacturing capacity, can be obtained is very important, but it's not the only condition in order to enable other companies to scale up their production. Are there any additional questions on this subject, vaccines, CureVac in particular, or other vaccines or vaccination matters? I believe that Tommaso has a question about this subject. Tommaso, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for the floor. Yes, first to follow up with Catherine's question, does the contract include a deadline by which CureVac need to achieve the authorization? And if the vaccine CureVac doesn't get the approval by the EMA, will the Commission be able to rescind the contract? And a second question, more on the financial side, how much EU money did the company receive? I know that the Commission and the EIB provided the company with 75 million euros financial support, but would you clarify the entire amount, please? Thank you.
Very much, Tommaso. Stefan, do you have the specific information and the figures at hand?
There we go. Thank you, Tommaso. Well, as you know, we do not communicate the figures of the support that we invest in each company for the development of your production capacity. You know, this was an important element of the development of our portfolio. We needed to make sure that the different companies with which we work are quickly able to develop a very high number of doses as soon as the green light of EMA comes in. You know that we have used approximately 2.9 billion euros to invest in the development of the production capacity of the different companies. But as you know, we do not share the amounts per company, which are considered to be confidential. As far as the contract is concerned, again, the first thing I would like to stress is that we are not into speculation. So we have to wait first for the outcome of these trials. We have to wait for the outcome of the assessment by the European Medicines Agency. This being said, the contract with CureVac, which is available online, a redacted version of the contract which is available online, indeed contains a number of termination clauses, also covering the situation of receiving or not receiving a conditional market authorization following an opinion by the European Medicines Agency. So I would invite you to take a look there. The contract provides for specific termination clauses. Thank you. Well, thank you. Just to add that this is what the contract is saying in general terms about the different situations that can occur. I by no means wanted to say here that we are in this kind of discussion with the company. We are now following the situation with the member states and with the Commission. And again, we need input from the European Medicines Agency first. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions for Stefan on this matter on vaccines and vaccination? So if that's the case, please keep your hand up. I believe that Niels has a question for you, Stefan. Niels, go ahead.
Yes, Stefan, this goal of vaccinating 70% of the adult population was inspired, of course, by this presumption of experts that we will reach herd immunity by this. But isn't it time to update this goal. Now experts are saying that maybe more is necessary.
Thank you. Stefan.
Thank you, well, Niels. Thank you very much, Niels. Well, indeed, the target of 70% has been set already some time ago, following input from our scientific colleagues, I would say, from the ECDC, for instance. And the 70% has been reached on the basis of this input. It's on the basis of this target that we are doing our work, which helps us to reach, indeed, the herd immunity, which is extremely important, especially taking into account the variants that are out there and possible future variants. So it's very important that we continue our vaccination. As I said, we are on track to reach this target. Obviously, we continue to follow the situation with the help of our scientific colleagues of, for instance, the ECDC, that are very closely monitoring the situation, the vaccination, and the occurrence of variants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And indeed, the debate is very active in the scientific community regarding levels of vaccination. Achieving 70% is indeed an important goal for us. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't get over 70%. We have the goal of 70% by a certain time, and this is what member states at the national level have set at different times, depending on their state of advancement. But indeed, it doesn't mean that vaccinations should stop after the 70% level has been reached. But you are also aware, Niels, as we all see, that the scientific world is debating whether we move from pandemic to endemic, how herd immunity can be reached, and how the virus will behave in the future. So we are watching closely those debates, and of course we are ready to adjust our vaccine portfolio and our targets as we go along to achieve the aim that we have, which is to control this pandemic and to free our societies of it to the extent possible and at the earliest stage possible. Are there additional questions for Stefan? That doesn't seem to be the case, so thank you, Stefan. Are there any additional questions for us today on other matters? Yes, Alexander has a question. Alexander, go ahead.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
All good, go ahead.
So my question is on EU-UK data flows, the adequacy decision. So from what I understand, last night the deadline ran out for member states under the comitology procedure to give their opinion on the draft put forward by the Commission, the draft adequacy decision. And I wondered what the timeline is for announcing a final decision on EU-UK data protection adequacy.
Thank you, Alexander. Christian is joining me to provide an answer.
Hello, yes, thank you, Alex. Indeed, I'm aware you're following this very closely. We are too. The Commission is working on the adequacy decisions for the United Kingdom. We have indeed requested the green light from Member States' representatives in the so-called comitology procedure. And so this ratification process is ongoing, and we'll be in a position to give you more information at the later stage. There's no concrete timeline for the Commission to when come forward with the proposal, but of course this is an important step for Member States to green light this after it was already consulted with data protection authorities and would then enable the Commission to come forward with such decisions soon.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions on this matter for Christian? So if so, please raise your hand. That's not the case. Are there any additional questions for Christian altogether? Not the case either. Thank you, Christian. Are there any additional questions for us today on any other matter? That's not the case, so thank you very much, everybody. And don't forget our technical briefings, which start from 1 p.m.